Hello, in this video we are going to learn about the table tag. The table tag is very useful. It's one way of setting up your web page where if you want some information on the left side, some information on the right side, maybe some information in the middle. If you think of like an Excel spreadsheet, it's similar to that if you want some structure to your web page. And we can also make some really kind of cool effects with tables once you get good at them. Tables are a little more tricky than what we've learned so far, but I'm going to go ahead and take it real slow here, and hopefully it'll be easy to understand. And again, using tables is just one way of getting the layout the way you want it with your HTML page. There's several ways of going about this. You could even use CSS later on once you learn HTML. But I think it's probably good that you learn how to use tables anyways, regardless if you use CSS with HTML later on or not. So table tag looks like this. Table, and we'll go down to the next line and close our table. And we're going to have rows in our table. So just like an Excel spreadsheet has columns and rows, a table has rows, and we separate. We tell the browser what are rows by using the tr tag, tr and a closing tag. And so this is one row, and if we want another row, we can go another row, and that's all that means. Within the tr tag, we can use a td tag, and you can think of td as a cell in that row. So in this case, there's one row you can tell that by the tr and the closing tr. Within that row, there's one cell. If we want to add more than one cell, we can just add another td tag and close it off. And let's just write something here: cell 1 and cell 2. And we'll save this. Let me open that. Well, that's kind of larger. Okay, and by default, I don't have a border on my table. Depending on your browser, it may put a border there for you, so it may be really hard to tell what's going on here. So let me go ahead and add a border attribute to our table. And tables do have many attributes. We just use this one called border right now. So you can go table border equals 1, and there you go. There's our table. It's pretty small right now, so what we can also do is put another attribute, width, and in quotation marks we can put 100% or any number you like. We'll save that. Okay, so now we have a table that takes up our whole screen here, and if we resize our window, the table is going to resize with it. So it'll always be 100% of the width of the screen. So that hopefully you should be able to kind of pick up how that would be really useful for designing a site where you don't know if someone's going to have a small browser window or a full screen browser window, but whatever they have, it will always be in proportion. So there's another tag called a th tag, which usually goes at the front of I should say in the first row of a table, but they're not very popular to use, and it's not likely that you'll ever need them. th, it's very similar to a td, except it's just a header. Any text within this will just be, let's just try this out. Table header, and we'll have to match this up since the first row has 2 cells. Here's 1 cell, and there's 2 cells. We're going to want to match that on every row. So if we have a row with 2 cells, we don't want to make another row below that with 1 cell, because that would kind of confuse things, and the browser might be wondering, well, where do I put the other space if I only have 1 cell? I hope that made some sense, but let's just add in another cell there so it matches, and we can reload this. Okay, so here's our table header. It's just kind of in bold, and that'll be the header. Usually that's in the first row, so if you had a bunch of values here, you can have a table header for each column. But again, th is not very common, so we'll just stick with td, td, and this is cell 4. So we can save this. And there's our TDs. Here's the one on the left and the one on the right. And we can add more in there. If we want 3 columns, we can add another TD in the row here. But if we do that, we must also add it to any other row. So now we have 3 columns, and we'll have 3 cells for each row. That way everything will line up correctly. And there's our cells over here. There's nothing in them, so it looks kind of weird, but if we put something in there, it will it should display fine here. I think that's 5, or it'll be 6 now, but anyways, so that's just some arbitrary number there. So there you go. Now we have a table with 3 columns, and each column is within the row. So row 1 is here, and row 2 is here below that. And if you want each cell the same width, that's pretty easy to do. All we need to do is add an attribute to our TD tags. So we can go TD width equals, say we're 33%, because that's would be a third. And you'd actually have to copy and paste that, which is kind of a pain. There is a better way of doing this. We'll learn later. Actually, I don't want to do that. You only have to do it for the first row. So, and all other cells below that will follow this here. So TD 33%. Okay, so now we should have 3 even cells here. There you go. So now all our cells are even, and starting to make a table there. So again, the table tag has the TR tag, which always goes inside the table tag, which which declares the row of the table, and within the row goes the cells. So there's TD. The TD tag is your cell. So if you have 1 TD tag, you have 1 large cell going across your whole table. If you have 2 TD tags within a row, you'll have 2 cells, in other words, 2 columns of your table. And also any subsequent rows have to have the same number of cells. Otherwise, you're going to run into problems with things lining up correctly. So in the next video, we'll also take a look at some more advanced tables that we can really get some useful effects with if we once we learn that. Thanks for watching. See you next time.